The show is called in honor of. It's a show for veterans, about veterans, their families, and also for the general public. And today we have two special guests. I'd like to introduce Jesse and Jason, and they're going to talk to us about Vets to Tech. Can you give us a little background on exactly what the program is about?
Absolutely. So in around 2017, I transitioned to civilian workforce, and
home.
Thank you. And I had moved into my family's industry, which was the energy industry. And one of the things that we identified just immediately that we didn't have a workforce program dedicated to veterans and hiring veterans.
Okay.
And after a couple months, I realized it was like the new home for me. So a bunch of veterans within the industry and outside the industry came together and developed the VETS program, where we focus on wanting to conduct outreach to the veterans groups, teach them about our industry. We want to teach them about the benefits that are available to them, help them with the resume writing, really just kind of cradle to grave, bringing them into the fold and showing them what we have to offer. But on the other end, it's also working with the companies. The understanding or the education that companies have in relation to the different programs and things that they can develop, the benefits that veterans bring to the table is kind of lacking. So sitting down and taking time with them and educating them on the proper steps they can take to make it more veteran friendly not only helps them in the long run for the recruitment, but it takes care of us because we're bringing in other veterans. You can't ask for a better candidate. We all know it. Right time, right place, right uniform, and right attitude.
Yeah.
In today's situation where we're at with workforce, it's the perfect candidate.
Yeah. I'll give just some experience from my own. I worked for major oil companies, and in most cases they did not understand veterans, didn't understand the lifestyle, didn't understand the benefits that were brought in. And I was involved in hiring, and I used to have to, every time I was involved in hiring, talk to the folks that are doing the hiring and, okay, you understand this guy worked in a nuclear submarine. He was the engine driver in the nuclear submarine. You think he could operate this high-tech equipment that you have here? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's missing because there's not that many of us that have served. In my entire workforce of over 1,000 people, there were only 12 of us who had served. Or were serving. So it's difficult for the civilian world to understand what the veteran can actually bring to it. Give us a little bit of your background.
So I served over 9 years in U.S. Army. I initially started off National Guard and attending college in a reserve capacity. Transitioned to active duty, where I was out in Texas as a 11 Bravo. Attended the Special Forces qualification course.
11 Bravo is a basic infantryman, by the way.
I have to be careful with that. All those numbers. So after I had attended the qualification course and graduated with my Green Beret, I was assigned to the 7th Special Forces Group on operational attachment out of teams down there. Spent about 5 years traveling in and out of different countries with a great team, doing a lot of good stuff, and it was like every big bad Green Beret. I got that email letting me know that I had to make a decision. I either could transition back to civilian life, or I could take a shot at entering the civilian workforce. So I did what every big bad Green Beret does. I called my mother and said, "Can I have a job?" And she said no. No, just kidding. And the rest is history. I've entered into the energy industry and have for over 4 years now and haven't looked back.
Jason, how about your background?
So I spent just over 24 years in uniform serving in the Navy. I started out at the Naval Academy, where I got my commission, and then went to flight school. Spent several tours going from squadron to a shore tour, back to a squadron, back to a shore tour. So I served in squadrons like the Red Lancers, the VP-10 up in NAS Brunswick, Maine, VP-9, the Golden Eagles out in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, which is everything that you think it could be. It was an amazing place to be stationed. Did several tours in the Pentagon. The most recent one that I served was I spent many years changing.
I wouldn't want to be there.
We make big rocks into little rocks, which is what I like to say. But I spent some time working for the Chief of Naval Operations, and he's the senior most officer in the Navy. And that was really a fascinating view from a strategic level of everything that our Navy and our nation has to deal with.
Okay. Well, why don't we go through the slides that you have to give a little background and a little more information about what you guys do and the importance of this program.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So slide 2.
Okay.
I think it's important to start with the history. When we initially came up with the concept of how are we going to bring veterans into this industry, how do we educate them, we only had a small group of 2 people. We didn't know what we were doing and or how we would get it done, but we knew that we needed to build the program. So we took this concept and started to create a mirror image of the different employment programs that had been previously provided by different state programs through the National Guard and Reserve components. And eventually it changed from being a 3-person operation to where there's 40 individuals that are volunteering and working to make sure that we are getting our message out there and the veterans are getting the help they need. And in 2019, early 2020, we actually started collaborating with a larger entity and other larger veteran entities so that we could expand what we're doing in multiple states across the U.S.
Okay, and with multiple companies, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So right now, over 900 companies in the U.S. in the energy sector are actively seeking to hire individuals, number one. Number two is they're looking for quality candidates, and they're taking the time to learn about veterans and their programs. So what this is most important when we talk, we're not talking directly to the companies, we're talking to the veterans. A lot of folks out there right now in the National Guard, Reserve components, are leaving active duty. They might not know what they want to do. They might not understand how they can laterally correlate what they did in the military to civilian life. But there are programs out there like ours that will help in identifying what works the best, where would they best fit, and making sure that they get the help is what we're here for.
Okay. And one of the important aspects that I see to that is transitioning is a very scary project. You're going from a life where basically everything is pretty much done for you till you're back out in the free world where you have to do everything for yourself. And I really think that the transition period is a time that we have to do better on with these veterans, because 20 people a day killing themselves is absurd. And unless we do better with that transition, I think it's going to continue. So
I think the different programs, I mean, on the federal level and state level, as we talked about New York, they have that centralized single building for veteran services.
yeah.
I think that we are putting forth effort, but the nonprofits out there that veterans are working to build, understanding what they're going through is something that I think every veteran should know about, right?
Yes.
No one speaks better. You mentioned earlier about translating that previous work history into civilian civilian language, right? It's funny because if I said to you I'm an 88 Mike, well, you would understand immediately that I'm a transport driver.
Yep.
And if I said I'm an E6, you would understand that that's a staff sergeant.
Yep.
But the civilian workforce doesn't understand that,
No.
and they don't relate that responsibility, that training, that education, that experience always. So taking the time to sit down with some veterans that are looking for better employment or new employment and being able to really put together a good resume, find them a good company that understands what veterans have gone through and what they need and what they bring to the table is what we focus on.
Okay. Continue on.
Yep. So slide 3. So talking about the VETS overview.
Sure.
So the overview of what our program does is initially founded in, as I said, 2017. We started working with 2 primary energy associations, and that was the National Propane Gas Association, or PERC, Propane Education Research Council, and NORA, the National Oil Heat Research Alliance. These are programs based out of DC. For every gallon of gas that you put into your car that's sold, let's say 1/3 of a penny gets pulled out and put into a kitty.
Okay.
They use this money for research, development, education, training, and most recently, outreach and recruitment. They focus on making sure nonprofits or different initiatives that they think are worth their salt can continue to operate. And most recently, over the past 4 years, it's been veteran recruitment. This industry of thousands of companies that are operating throughout all of COVID. I mean, I tell everyone that our industry is recession-proof and COVID-proof. You know, we're always out there. We're delivering. We're operating. But they continue to support these programs. And what we've done over the past 4 years is initially starting in one state with just 2 guys, kind of figuring out how this is going to work, how we build this outreach. With the success from the different outreach programs, going to unit visits, meeting at different veteran service groups, actually sitting down and doing one-on-one preparation for interviews and whatnot, resume building. Because of the success and the number of hires that we've been able to bring into the industry, we've continued to grow. So right now, over 22 states we're active in, and it's grown from not only just being for the veterans, but also, well, it's still for the veterans, but also for the companies. Taking the time to teach them about the programs, that's really been a big shift. Like you said, it's scary, and you know everything. You know where you're going to eat, you know where you're going to sleep, you know when you're going to go to work, what you're going to wear, and then all of a sudden you have this huge shift in your life. And teaching these employers about what the veterans are experiencing and how best to integrate them changes not only the way that the employer sees the veteran, but the way that the veteran re-enters the workforce. And that's, I think, one of the most key things, because even me, I was very fortunate. I was so fortunate that I had a family business and an industry for over 15 years that I could kind of shift into. Not every veteran has that. But even at that shift, I was on the way to our first meeting, and I'm there with my mother, and I said, you know, I'm kind of nervous. She goes, about what? I said, I don't know how to interact. I don't know what I'm going to say. I've been on a team running around using more curse words than basic English in foreign countries with, you know, not cutting my hair and like all this craziness. And she goes, it'll be fine. Yep. And it was amazing because the industry, the culture in the industry was immediately accepting of veterans, and it worked out. But I can't imagine, I've experienced it, but to be a veteran and have to shift and do that, it's a hard task.
A couple of examples I use. I'm a mentor here in the Veterans Courts on Staten Island, and I've had 4 candidates who've gotten through the court system, and that's a good thing. That they survived the program and they're out of trouble with the law. 3 of those veterans had pretty severe PTSD. They got out of the military and were not diagnosed. They were not in any program before they got in trouble with the law. One of them had a traumatic brain injury. Again, not diagnosed. And you say, gee, how come they're in trouble with the law? Yep. And we've got to do better on that transition. We've got to get to the point where we bring people back. If you spend 5 months, 6 months training somebody to be in the military, you've got to detrain them and get them back to civilian life, and we don't do that. We do not do it. We do it poorly, let's put it that way.
And great at making soldiers, not civilians.
Yes, and I think that's why we have so many problems in the transition. So that's just me. Continue on.
That's 4. Right? Slide 4 is just media examples. So here we have some photos of different events. As we were growing the program and working with National Guard and Reserve Forces, we kind of found the key to what we do and the key to getting in touch with the local veteran groups. And that's going from the top down for a lot of the reservists, meeting with the adjutant generals, meeting with the local commanders.
Always starts well from the top in the military.
That's it. But as it grew, we found that going to the local units and actually sitting down and talking to the commander about what we have to offer and in our industry and asking, hey, how can we help your soldiers? You know, and going to the different veteran services and say, hey, do you have people that need help? That was where it kind of was like the big shift, and you found, I didn't realize how many folks, like you mentioned, that are out there that don't have the information they need, and they do need the help. So We've met for different events on national levels. We've had adjutant generals, we've had senior leadership from all of the different branches come and attend these meetings, bring soldiers. We've invited a bunch of veterans that are out there looking for their next step in life, and bring them to actually kind of give them that general overview of what we have to offer and understand the industry. Because you said you worked in the oil industry, right?
Yeah.
Most individuals, when we talk about propane or fuel oil, they see the trucks, they like their barbecue, but they don't understand that just like the military and a transportation unit, there are a million cogs behind the scenes that are working, and there's a position for them. So assisting them in getting that resume, understanding that transition better.
Converting it out of militaries.
Yeah, military, I like that. Militaries, absolutely.
Yeah.
And bringing them into our industry, knowing that they'll never leave because of how great the culture is and the pay and everything that comes with it. I think that's the big success, and having some of the, as you see the examples there, having these adjutant generals, these senior leaders come and commit to joining the program, bringing their soldiers on board when they need help, and it makes a difference.
We're going to take a quick break here.
Most of the military folks I know, I think we've all lost fellow service members to suicide, and female veterans die by suicide more often than female non-veterans. Store your guns securely. Help stop suicide. Service never stops.
The show is in honor of, I'd like to introduce our guests today. We have Jason and we have Jesse.
All right, last slide, partnerships. So in developing the program, and with the growth that we had, we found that there was a lot more than just 10, 20, 30 companies out there. There's over 900 companies that we're working with across the U.S. So any veterans that are out there, that no matter what state you're in, if you're looking for employment and they're looking for the next a great opportunity, I invite them to come and join our industry and everything we have to offer. And the dedication of the industry has just continued to increase in the building of GI Bill certified training facilities, education pathways, lateral military certification programs, and this is just continued to grow what we have to offer to the veterans out there, and it actually leads into to Jason being here and the dedication that he and his company specifically has been providing to the veterans out there.
Well, why don't you introduce Jason?
So how do you want me to introduce him? How I met him, or overview of?
Just an overview of him and the company.
So Jason, actually, we met when we were initially launching it up in New Hampshire and Maine area, and Jason works for Dead River, but Jason being a vet, we immediately got along, recognized each other from across the room, and sat down, had a beer. Oh, I can't say beer, can I? I'm sorry.
Why not?
All right. So we sat down and started to talk about veteran workforce, different initiative programs. And unlike some other veterans that I've already met in the industry, Jason was extremely well educated on the different programs that were out there because he was already taking initiatives at a personal level. And then started to talk about how his company was taking all these steps, and it kind of took off from there. We've held many, many events in New Hampshire and Maine and other states where Jason takes time out of the day on a weekend to come and sit down, brings one of his company vehicles in, and briefs the soldiers, the commanders, and does one-on-one time with them, talks to them about what his company specifically does for veterans, and I think that's pretty amazing. It separates him from the pack.
Okay.
So I'll say from my own personal perspective, I retired from the Navy in 2018, and so a lot of the transition stories that you shared, I felt very personally, but I had a job when I left the Navy in 2018, and while I was on terminal leave, my wife and I were on vacation driving across the country. The company called me up and they said, "Sorry, we're rescinding your job offer. It's back to the drawing board." So we went to a bunch of career fairs, a bunch of hiring fairs, and again, it was this veterans community that picked me up and said, hey, we have a job at Dead River Company. I think you ought to look at it. And so the gentleman was a retired Marine and as well a National Guardsman. He flew with some Marines that I had previously worked with, and so there was that instant connection, like that seeing you across the room while you're having a beer kind of thing. And so, that was history. But right then and there, I wanted to create an atmosphere where no other veteran was leaving the service that had that kind of uncertainty. And so, in my own little corner of the world, I wanted to be that give them that information that they needed to have, at least about our company, and to the extent that I could, other opportunities in the local area. So within Dead River Company, the really neat thing about our company is very similar to being in the military. We have a mission. All companies kind of have a mission, and we deliver energy and peace of mind. But that's something you can tell a veteran that they understand, okay, I have to take that hill. I have to do X, Y, or Z. Our job is to deliver energy, and a lot of times it's in the worst weather circumstances you could possibly imagine. So we get behind that.
COVID.
Or during COVID, absolutely. So veterans inherently understand that. We also understand that we have to operate by sort of a higher code. And so our company, our core values are integrity, caring, and excellence. And so our CEO, when I very first was hired, sat me down and she said, you know, the first two, they're not optional. They are not negotiable. You have to be a person of integrity, and you have to care. You really have to have those. Excellence, we're all going to fall short every now and again, and we realize you have to be able to pick yourself up. And so again, back to the veteran experience, we're good at learning from our mistakes, and we're good at moving forward and making things happen. So really, this becomes then a natural continuation of our military service as veterans. And so from that perspective is where I'm coming from as I go off and try to do what I can to recruit veterans and give them information. So when we look at workforce development at Dead River Company, I would say far and away the most popular thing that I've done working with our HR department and our media folks is create a veteran landing page. And so much like the Vets to Text program, it's making that personal connection between a veteran and somebody in the company. And so on our veteran landing page, you can fill out your information, and it doesn't go into some random mailbox, it goes to my mailbox. And so
You're the mentor.
Precisely. And so usually I get to them as fast as I can. I'll try and respond, within a day, but sometimes I might not get to them within 24 hours. But it's me personally reaching out saying, I know what you're going through. I've been there. Let's talk about this. And oh, by the way, I even have it on my LinkedIn profile as a second language military jargon. So I kind of get what you're saying.
Acronyms.
And I even know what an 11 Bravo is now and an 88 Mike and all that stuff, but it's through working with Jesse and that network. So I'm that person on the other end of the phone, kind of giving them that information, which I think is a good thing. And that's not to take anything at all away from our recruiters.
Yep.
It's just that personal, like, I get it kind of situation. We're affiliated with programs like the Department of Labor's Hire Vets Medallion program, of course, the Veteran Education and Training Service, and all sorts of local partnerships, what I would call. So, for example, in Maine, there's a group called Boots to Roots who helps place veterans, take care of veterans, things like that. In New Hampshire, we've even worked with the State Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services to create a New Hampshire veteran-friendly business recognition program that now companies within that state can have a forum to discuss best practices when it comes to hiring veterans and all of those sorts of issues that, are not unique to us as employers, where, I can potentially, and other veterans throughout the state can potentially mentor those companies and give them ideas as well. So another great example is that network that you have, that you build. I was talking with a veteran, I don't remember where she was from. She was a Navy sailor, I think, on recruiting duty in Iowa. And she had just achieved an IT certification, and our company unfortunately didn't have a current opening. I mentioned her during one of those meetings, and literally 4 people send her my way. And so it's those connections, again, it's that personal connection that you make as veterans. So our company, I'm really proud to brag. You mentioned, what was it, 10 veterans or something in your company of over whatever it was, 2,900, something like that. Our company is about 1,100, and we're, as of the other day, about 14% of those are veterans.
So good.
And we're continuing to increase that. So I'm extraordinarily proud of that. Our new president and CEO, Casey Crampton, is a veteran himself of the U.S. Army's 25th Infantry Division. Two of our vice presidents are veterans. So that attitude is infused really throughout our company. So I'm extraordinarily proud of that. Taking to heart some of the things that Jesse was talking about with regard to training is, if you have a desire to learn, I have a desire to teach you. And we realize that not everybody who comes out of the military is going to have all of the skills that we need, although it's great if they do. It's great if they're, those 88 Mikes, those drivers who are...
Train easy.
Absolutely.
Right.
But sometimes they need training. And so as a company, and actually as an industry, this is a huge issue. I mean, there are regulations that we have to follow. There's extraordinarily long periods of service before you can be, yes, safety for sure. So one example of a training initiative that we've created was we built what's called Dead River Institute, which is our local in-house school. It's not something you can go online and sign up for, to train service technicians. We train drivers locally. And again, this past season, we've hired 2 veterans who didn't even have a CDL, built them up, got them their CDL, and now they're drivers for us. And so really, again, it's going back to that mission, that this is our mission, this is what we're doing going forward. We deliver energy and peace of mind, and that really is what we're here to do. So overall, I'm really proud of our company, proud of our accomplishments.
Great company.
So if there's some individuals out there that are, let's say, unemployed, underemployed, or just want to see what's out there, our contact information is listed on this slide here. And whether you just want to have a conversation about your resume, different programs that are in your area, or you want to talk about the industry, employment options, reach out to us. So phone number, direct contact would be 570-575-4184. Our email is info@vets2.org. And then the website, if you would like to get some more information to be able to contact different team members or specific on your state, is www.vets2.org. Okay. So a lot of information, but you're also on this sheet is the information for Jason's contact, along with some of our other team members. So we'd love to talk to you guys.
The other thing I'd like to put out there is that if you're an employer out there who would like to get vets hired, everybody out there nowadays is looking for good employees. There's a lot of good veterans coming out in the market, so this is a good opportunity. You could link exactly the same way to your organization. I'm sure that you would take calls at your place.
Absolutely.
And be willing to help anybody who's trying to get that transition and get good vets into those good jobs. From an employer's standpoint, having good employees is always a pleasure. I understand that you have a video for us.
I do. So the director of NORA, the National Oil Heat Research Alliance, was unable to come here and join us today, but because he's responsible for every state and obviously everything that's going on in relation to that program. But he did record a video, and I think this is a great example of how committed the industry is to the vets. He's welcomed you with open arms. A man who's running all these states, trying to keep all these oil companies in line, like individuals like Jason here. But it's a good example of what he believes in the program and believes in veterans, the value they bring to our industry. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Devine, and I am the president of the National Oil Heat Research Alliance. NORA is committed to growing the heating oil industry, and in doing so, looking to attract young people to become our HVAC technicians and CDL drivers to support our industry. We have our NORA Learning Center in Plainview, New York, which we're very proud of, and we also are sponsors of NORA Tech Training schools throughout the New England and the Mid-Atlantic areas. NORA is a proud supporter of the Vet to Techs program. We find that our vets coming home after serving our country so bravely are ideal candidates to come into our industry and serve our communities. On behalf of everyone at NORA, we want to give a big shout out to the Vets to Techs program and thank them and thank our veterans who've served our industry and our country so bravely. Thank you.
And a pleasure having you here, and hope that you'll come back and tell us how things are going in the future.
Absolutely. Bring some vets in here for your mentor program, and some of the folks here in New York, get them some really good career opportunities.
Again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.